in so many cycles, and I'm blessed, brother. We are all blessed to have you alive. You feel me? Real talk.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It took a lot. I know what the fight is. I know how long it's going to take. I know what type of intestinal fortitude, intellectual girth, and grit it's going to take to do this, because back when I started out, there was nobody around, and my part was to say that, to make sure that the next generation came, that all of what it is I was going to duplicate myself. That was the main thing, to duplicate myself, and to try to make as many people aware of what they had in their own potential, wake them up. And I was fortunate to have met up with people at that time who said, listen, why don't we just tape this? Can I tape you for other people to hear? I remember those days. And it's like Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix didn't care nothing about who it was buying his music or how much money he was making. He was too busy making music. And at that time, he set the path and the pattern for how everybody would play guitar. But he wasn't about the business, man. And at that time, all of us were idealists. Delbert, myself, Bobby, we were all idealists. We had something to say. We wanted to tell the people what time it was from a perspective that nobody was looking at. And, we hoped that people would listen. Back then, it was very difficult. We were talking like we knew about 2 to 3 people. And they didn't know what we were talking about, but I blessed them because they stood in there and hung in there trying to find out what we were talking about. And sure enough, it broke through, and we'll give thanks to brothers and sisters like yourself who forwarded it, who made it part of their everyday conversation. That was the secret, to do something to open up the minds and hearts of young people so that you could become part of, and what you've told them could become part of their everyday conversation. And when that happens, it's called a meme. It's called meme, M-E-M-E. It's called meme. A meme is like a psycho-spiritual virus. It catches on where people don't know why they've said it or how it came to them, but it's almost like infectious. It's passed from word of mouth and from thought to thought with people. It's almost thought-to-thought broadcasting and thought-to-thought transmission. And
Can I jump in real quick?
Why it is that people pick up things around the world when you thought you said it over here 5 minutes ago, somebody around the world has picked up on it. Well, that's called a meme, M-E-M-E. And we were trying to set the memes afloat, set it out there, get it on the frequency wave band. And sure enough, you said the younger brothers and sisters are actually validating it now.
Yeah, I want to hop in real quick and veggie back off of that right there, because we had Sophia Stewart on the show about 2 weeks ago, right? So to add on what you're saying about the memes and the synchronicity, when I walked into that movie theater in 1999, I was on a hot date, you know what I'm saying? And I went to go see The Matrix. I didn't know what I was in for. I didn't know what was going to be revealed to me. All I knew that I was a young student inside of the realm of metaphysics, still trying to grasp what was being fed to me and things of that nature. But when I walked out of that movie theater, I knew for sure I was ready to get my black leather and my black glasses, and I was ready to get on this Neo trip. You know what I'm saying? I was looking for Morpheus because I was like, yo, this film just spoke to me the same way that these VHS tapes, this guy, Dr. Valentine, and Delbert Blair, I'm from back in the days when Delbert was audio.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When we used to smuggle cassette tapes and listen to him. You know what I mean? And I was like, look, these brothers are definitely on to something. And then the real inaugural event, my event horizon, was on September 10th, and my brother could vouch for that. You know what I mean? We just came from a court case where he demonstrated his Moorish sovereignty. He demonstrated it was a whole bunch of Moors in court. We did some stuff that I never thought could happen, right? So that broke a seal. Then we were in the crib watching your video and reading the David Icke book. And the David Icke book was talking about Osama bin Laden and things of that nature. And I think I was watching your video where you were doing a breakdown on the X-Men or something. And I actually remember when I always tell you about I used to get my Phil Valentine migraines right in my left eye, short circuit in the chip that I had in my brain. And I fell asleep watching the video, and I woke up to 9/11. And at that point right there, and I could remember that day crystal clear. At that point, I knew it was on and popping. And I knew what my mission was, and from there forth, I've been carrying it out ever since. Because it took me from being a participant to actually being a part of the movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like the brother Rashid is saying, like, the work that you and Bobby and Delbert and all of you brothers have done, and I'm speaking from the generation, the lost generation. I'm speaking from the generation where you can ask my moms, you know what I'm saying? She'll vouch for it, where almost all of my peers was getting knocked off.
Right.
You know what I mean? We were throwing ourselves away, you know, because the information that was being given to us, it wasn't enough to hold us.
Right.
But when we got into that metaphysics and started seeing reality from a whole nother angle, from a bird's eye view, then that's when everything began to change, and we realized that it wasn't that bad, and we was able to look ourselves in the mirror and see something finally. You know what I'm saying? So your work, you know what your work means. Your work means a lot. It's monumental. You know what I mean? And I'm definitely honored. I'm definitely honored in this days and times to be in your presence and all of the other master teachers' presence. You know what I'm saying? Because you know the work that y'all done is being actualized as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's the beauty of time speeding up the way it is. And I wish that the elders that helped to initiate and spark me, like Baba John Clark and Dr. Van Sertima and Otis, brothers who are out there from the get-go, who are out there giving us our sense of African selves first. That was the first turn of events. That was the way that the whole vehicle began to shift into another gear, was when those elders began coming out and turning our eyes back to Africa and proclaiming our ownership of the materials that were mutilated and were all juxtaposed and turned about, flipped over and done all kinds of editing on our work. When they came back and started fitting those pieces of the puzzle together and giving us a sense of self, a place to anchor ourselves, a place to look back to. That was my inspiration, to go from that history to find out what was the greatness within their souls and spirits that constituted the mystery that made that civilization so great, made us so great. So that was part of my inspiration for going on the metaphysical tip, to find out the secrets that made those civilizations great. And I thank my elders, like Dr. Clark and Dr. Ben and Dr. Van Sertima and all of the Brother Wilson and everybody who was there to point us in that way, even Brother Asa Hilliard. All of these brothers, Brother King, who did the Black Dot, when he started taking it on the metaphysical tip, and Dr. Francis Kress, all of them who were there at the pinnacle, getting us back to our sense of self, looking back on ourselves rather than looking out. We started looking in, and I thank them for setting that particular part of us straight, because that's what helped me to be assured that the path that I would take would be a clear and precise one.
Indeed.
Yeah, and I can even recall, my mother saying that she was present when you were giving these particular lectures out of your home. So, this picture totally is coming full circle, because I remember late, I think it was 1999 is the first attending your lecture. Somebody got that's somebody's background? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, that might be Rashid.
No, I'm sorry, beloved. Go ahead.
Yeah. And, you know, I was attending the brother's lecture. I was about the only person in there underneath 40 at that time, and I felt that the information needed to get to our demographics, our populace. So at that time, you know, I had a newspaper, Four Corners, and I had a writer at that time, a brother that we affectionately know as Black Dot, who also made mention of, man, the brother Dr. Valentine is the truth, man. I only wish that, you know, I could actually get a chance to meet him. And I said, well, I know a brother in Brooklyn named Shabazz that I buy the VHSs from because it wasn't even DVDs at that time. So behind the scenes, I was the one that made the introduction to Black Dot and Shabazz, and then I knew Chris through our brother Rashid, and then they formed Eye Opener Productions and thus created a platform for which now we can actualize and bring this message to our demographics and our populace, and that contribution has blossomed into what we are here tonight doing. So
well, see,
totally,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know definitely what you mean. It's props because, you know, I remember when Black Dot and Brother Chris and his brother Chris, Black Dot, and I forgot one more brother. I'm not sure, another brother, I believe it, Brother Haitian brother. They came and Brother Black Dot asked me, along with Brother Chris, you know, if I would come out because I had pulled in from the gatherings of the masters and said I wasn't going to do it anymore because it didn't seem that, you know, whatever we were doing was sparked. And sure enough, you got to get it because they actually reignited the torch that had kind of almost flickered out in New York on the metaphysical scene, and they brought it back. I remember first it was over in Fort Greene Senior Citizens Center.
Yes.
That we began that particular march back to bringing that consciousness out, and they began hitting the streets hand to hand, passing out flyers, getting the information out, and before you know it, it's blown up to this huge market, this huge underground street market. And then you're correct when you say that all things happen from the street outwards. There's no change comes from the top down. Change comes from the bottom up. And that's why there's so many earthquakes, so much turmoil going on the planet, because it's got to come from the bowels of the earth first to shift everything. And that's exactly where consciousness shifts from. It shifts from the people in the streets. It shifts from the, sure enough, four corners, the lower rung of the pyramid that begins to build, that you build upon. And that's who we are. That's who you brothers are. You all have started the masonry, the psycho-spiritual masonry that's going to build that pyramid to the new time.
Indeed. Indeed. And I remember, you know, and going and seeing my cousin on visits, and I'm telling Rashid about, like, man, it's a brother named Valentine back home that you got to hear. And, you know, we started working to get the brother the tapes. And, you know, he did what he had to do in terms of responding to the information and adding on and building it. Before you know it, again, he came home and did what he did, and we're here. You know what I'm saying? So that masonry is now, that you know, the foundation, those bricks that were laid, it's now an edifice. You know what I'm saying? It's now an edifice. It's now a fully built building with pillars and hallway.
Father's mansion.
Yes, it's our father's mansions with many rooms. You know what I'm saying? And so many people have benefited from a few individuals not letting that light go out. You know what I'm saying? Capturing that torch before it hit the ground and actually restoring